Myles Garrett gets the sacks, but the Browns still get shellacked. They got absolutely destroyed by the Patriots, which unfortunately we predicted. We were hoping we'd be wrong, but that is unfortunately what happened. The Browns even got off to a solid start. They were up 7-3. Then Schlesinger gets a pick, giving the ball to the Browns at the 35-yard line. So they were, right there. The golden opportunity to go up 14-3 or even 10-3 at least. But the offense completely stalled out. They could barely get anything, and they had to resort to a 47-yard field goal, which Schmidt promptly missed. And I think we all knew it was over once that happened. I know I did, and it was. The Patriots responded by scoring, I think it was 27 straight points, put the game away, and it was a definitive 32-13 game. There wasn't even a lot of garbage time yards and points to at least have some fun over. I want to start off with grading Dillon Gabriel, of course. He is the rookie quarterback, and he is kind of the only interesting thing going on right now. When your team is losing, the one thing you hold on to is the rookies. Can you at least pull a moral victory? If they're playing well, you can at least hang your hat on that. But, well, at least they look good and hope for next year, right? Or if they're losing, even in the midst of a loss, if your rookie puts in 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, has a good passer rating, you can still come away feeling good. This was definitely not one of those days. Dillon Gabriel did not have a great game, in my opinion. We're going to get more into that. Then we're going to talk about, afterwards, if Shedeur should be stepping in, and if so, when. Then, should the Browns make a move at the deadline? That is coming up right around the corner at this point. And then, of course, our Brownie Points segment, where we reward Brownie Points and stand-up players on offense and defense. Since there's a bye week coming up, we are not going to do a preview segment this episode, but we will do our preview segment next week. So keep an eye out for that in about 7 days, I want to say. All right, let's start off with Dillon Gabriel. We've been more favorable to him. I would say starting from draft day, honestly, even before draft day. We've been more favorable to him than the average Browns fan. And since he's been playing with the Browns, we've also, I think, continued to be a little bit more favorable to him. I've been giving him C minus grades on a lot of these games. What was your impression from this one? Because, the season's been bad, but this game in particular was real bad.
Yeah, I think I'm just giving him like a D minus. It was a bad game.
There wasn't much really to be positive about.
Yeah, there was a couple moments here and there. The Njoku touchdown was nice. He put some real nice velocity on it. Gets right into him right before the defender gets there. So I thought that was a nice ball. He had a couple decent ones. He stayed calm under pressure and delivered that touchdown to Fannin.
Yeah, his
which was nice. It wasn't a crazy throw, but just
his pocket presence is still good. Yeah, he still has good pocket presence.
And you see those moments, and occasionally he'll roll out to the left and throw a really nice ball. And so he does do that occasionally, and I did see that. So that's nice. So he has some of those moments. But look, unlike other weeks, he had 2 really, really bad moments. 2 of them, and they were bad. You do get to see this idea, by the way, that he doesn't have the arm strength. That ball traveled a lot of air yards, that second interception.
Yeah.
The problem is it wasn't a good decision. But
yeah, the interception was bad, but he threw the ball. It wasn't.
The problem isn't arm strength. That's not the issue.
Arm strength is not going to be the reason he's not successful, and it's not going to be because he's short.
No, it's not. And the issue is there's just a lot going on, and ultimately the grade on him was a little more of elevated game manager type. And at the end of the day, the Browns are just really bad, and really bad teams don't have success with those types of guys. And honestly, that's really the under talked about a point in the NFL at large when they talk about these guys who are doing better elsewhere. Some of it's because they are allowed to actually develop, and some of it's they're allowed to play differently to their strengths, which is they don't have to elevate old teams because they're not meant to do that. But if you give them a lot of talent to play with,
have weapons around them. I think the NFL, a lot of NFL fans developed this weird idea that if you can't elevate a bunch of practice squad players, then you're worthless. And that's not the case. 95%. I was going to say almost nobody does it. Even Mahomes doesn't really do that. It's not a coincidence it's picking up after Rashid Rice comes back.
And Xavier Worthy, right? When he was out, the offense.
And I'm not saying Mahomes is terrible without his receivers, but we saw a difference.
We saw a difference without Tyreek Hill. It took a year,
right? That's what I'm saying.
It started to kick in.
Yeah.
And they went from super dynamic, and then you look at Josh Allen, right? Huge jump after Stephon Diggs comes. He leaves, and he ends up being really great last year. Phenomenal. Finds a way. This year, it's not bad. He's good, but there's a limit.
Yeah,
lost some games.
There's a limit to how much you can scheme around ineptitude and terrible players. Low quality.
The only guys I've ever seen that do consistently are really Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Rodgers. When he was in his prime, Rodgers used to do that.
And he could do it with any receivers. Yeah, they didn't really put great.
All the guys I've ever seen do it like consistently throughout the years, like with a lot of these types of guys.
Yeah,
otherwise, usually it'll be like an elevation of like a 3 receiver, something like that.
And that kind of leads me to the Browns issue, right? Is that they have no wide receivers. It's not even like, this is by far the worst receiving core in the NFL. It's not even like they have, just the guys who are not that good. They have practice squad undrafted players that are starting for this team.
One guy with talent, he's a drop machine.
Your number one receiver leads the NFL, in drops. That's a big problem. 2, this guy was an 800-yard receiver for most of his career as a number 2 receiver. He was getting 800 yards. Now that same guy is receiving number 1 coverage, coverage from number 1 corners, right? It's not going to be much better than that. And obviously everything after him is just beyond terrible. Like, people are like, they keep dumping it off to the tight ends. That's because of the only people to throw to. One of the things you noticed when you were watching that game, and both of us were noticing, was that the entire route tree was just every receiver lines up, 2 guys just run. Doesn't really matter what they're doing. They're just running. And the guys who are actually going to be thrown to go 3 yards and turn around. And that's pretty much all that happened all game. Every passing play.
They don't even do deep
just
slants.
3 yards.
It's so bad.
Turn around.
And
what do you expect is going to happen?
But also, I do feel like Stefanski deserves some blame.
Yes.
You can come up with some simple route trees to take advantage of your speed that aren't just go routes. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it has to be amazing, but you could throw a couple in there.
That's the thing is that
essentially
there's obviously more than one person's fault. But I think that, again, we were discussing this last week, but it's an under-discussed issue here. It's just how much of an impact receivers do actually make. Receivers matter. We had this weird period where we just convinced ourselves that receivers don't matter. They do matter. You have to have somebody to
convince ourselves of that because you had these spectacular quarterbacks all playing at the same time. These unbelievable talents.
Yeah.
And for a while it was Breeze. The guys were talking about Breeze, Brady, and Rodgers were all good at the same time.
And Peyton Manning.
And it warps your... Manning was phenomenal. Although, to be fair, he didn't do as much elevating. A lot of his receivers were really good.
He did have really good receivers.
But at the same time, they're all playing at the same time. And, in terms of overall talent, there's Roethlisberger, too. You just had such a ridiculous amount of talent. It's the golden age of quarterbacks. But the reason why I call it the golden age, right? It doesn't last forever. And then, you come down to earth a little bit.
Yeah. So what's your overall... Obviously, there's so many other things playing into it. It feels like, to me, Dylan Gabriel, I agree. You gave him a D-. Yeah, for me, that's about... I'm pretty much there, D-, F, honestly, F+.
You can give him an F, too. It's fair. The only thing I hope...
bad, but at the same time, I don't feel like there was a whole lot more that could have been done, but at the same time, he didn't do great either. I don't know if that really is even making sense.
And the safety, to be fair, was really bad.
But it's like...
The safety was really bad.
Yes.
That was really bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He played bad.
At the same time...
And at the same time, guys were not open.
Well, at the same time, why was nobody in that side of the field?
I don't know.
That's a weird...
That's why I think he threw it there. I think he was probably expecting...
Maybe someone was supposed to be.
Somebody was there, but he was going further up.
But could be he decided to make a move afterwards. But,
I think he thought he was going to come back a little bit, and it was just going to be considered a missed throw. He wasn't trying to throw it away, I don't think.
Because otherwise it's a bad play.
I think he was trying to throw it away, but throw it close enough to the receiver that it wouldn't be deemed that, but it did.
But you need to keep your eyes open, and that's a bad play. But at the same time, rookies have ups and downs. Everybody's accepted this. But when you don't have the talent to help you make the ups... And we see this sometimes with drops. So, even when he makes the play. So, yeah, I just feel bad being too overly harsh on him because I don't see as much of the, really, really basic stuff. I've seen a little more of the bad stuff like this game, but that can also happen due to frustration and just trying to, force balls. I just feel not great play, but at the same time, I'm very excited, so to speak, I guess, as much as you can be, for the next few weeks after the bye week when they play much worse defenses and hopefully don't have monsoons at the same time, don't have, crazy wins. And see if things can pick up at least a little bit.
Yeah, because the Browns were never going to win that game anyway. I wasn't.
Not that.
I didn't want it to be as bad as it was, but the Browns were never going to win that game. The Patriots are an ascending quality team. They're well coached. This was not going to be the game. Okay,
no.
Game you circle with the Jets.
They're probably the Broncos this year. The Patriots.
And the Browns could do similar to the Jets, what they did to the Dolphins. I could even see that, especially with the Jets riding high after beating the Bengals.
Yeah, maybe.
They might be feeling themselves a little bit. Again, we'll discuss more of that next week. But I think this whole thing about feeling like it's difficult to grade Dylan because of how horrible the wide receivers are. And by the way, all of that, as you can see now, Quinton Judkins' production is dipping significantly. A big part of that is because they got behind too far early and then just stopped running the ball. Or stopped running the ball with consistency. But the other part of it is that everyone recognized for sure you definitely don't need to worry about the pass game. And they also recognize that Judkins is a real threat and are actually allocating more, game planning in people in the box literally to man it. And then of course you have the coaching inefficiencies, shall we say, around this team. And all of those are surrounding Dylan Gabriel and are contributing to the terrible play that we're seeing on field. But what a lot of people are clamoring for, a lot of a certain category of Brown fan are clamoring for, are Shedeur Sanders. There's always that category of Browns fans that when things go poorly, they just want to burn it all down. They just want to put someone else in. It doesn't matter. Get somebody else on. This is so horrible. You have to identify the problem and then actually put somebody in. But that's what they want. They want the most immediate change possible. Whether or not that change is actually a good idea, they want change for the sake of change, which I think is a very dangerous idea. That being said, Kevin Stefanski, they know is not going to move in the middle of the year, and I think that's why we're seeing such a big upswell for Shedeur Sanders to step in. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's a mistake.
I think it would be a mistake. I think Kevin Stefanski sees him practice every day, which is why he hasn't even been non-committal. He's been very clear about him not playing. I believe if you saw him practice every day, you'd have the same opinion. We've seen him come out in preseason. He looked bad. I don't think he's improved all that much. I've said that before. I think he's lost out there, and he doesn't know what he's doing, quite frankly. I also think that Stefanski, first of all, historically, he's not great at adaptions. When he does make his best adaptions, they come out post-bye week. You've seen oftentimes the offense will make a pretty solid adjustment post-bye week. Since he's slow at it, he's better when he has that extra week to think. So I do think, first of all, the offense might actually make some adjustments so look a little bit better post-bye week. Playing defenses again, hopefully without monsoons, and you'll get that, and he wants to see that from Dylan. But mostly, I think he just sees that Shedeur doesn't know what he's doing, and he just has a good arm. It's just where things are going to go.
His job's on the line. I think if Shedeur was lighting it up, he'd be putting him in. I think.
And look at him for Barry. He was really resting on this rookie class, hoping that would come through. But Graham's come down quite a bit. I'm not saying he's been terrible, but he's definitely come down. He's not doing spectacular stuff. And you picked him number 5, so it can't just be solid. You know what I mean?
You have to be really good.
Yeah.
You have to at least be a consistent starter for the next 10 years. I mean, that's what you want when you take him 5.
Yeah, and Schwarzenegger got injured, and look, that's not his fault or anything. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the shine of your rookie class helping you stay out, he's going to be out for a while. And
if he's not playing, he can't contribute to your stellar rookie class.
Judkins is one guy, and due to things are going to have to get better again.
His production Judkins' production has fallen off a cliff because he can't do anything.
Right, and that's not his fault. But it is what it is. Fannin has looked good, and that's just not enough. And that's pretty much it.
The worst thing on Shedeur though. I don't know.
Yeah, we want to get
sidetracked. Yeah, but Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, is a mistake if he steps in because first of all, we're not that far into it, right? But here's the thing: Shedeur Sanders, first of all, looked bad in preseason. His pocket management is horrific. He was stepping back 8 steps, and you can't do that in preseason. It's going to be worse in the regular season. That's A. B, if Shedeur comes in and it's even worse than Dylan Gabriel, what is your next step? If he plays even worse over the next 4 games, which, yes, is possible, okay, because Dylan at least is managing the pocket, okay, and he can at least make those dump-offs. Shedeur's pocket management, the way he looks in the pocket with his feet, he could take plays that could have been 4 or 5-yard dump-off and turn them into 7-yard sacks. That's the kind of player that he is. I'm not saying it will be that way. I'm not a seer. I can't predict the future. But it could be that bad. It can get a lot worse than it already is.
And don't forget, the Browns had 17 points against the Vikings halfway through the third quarter. If they hadn't gotten so ultra conservative, they probably would have scored a few more.
Yeah, they could have been. But if Shedeur comes in and it is even worse the next 4 or 5 games, well, now you're sitting there with 6-7 games left in the season. And what are you going to do? You're going to put Dylan back in? And now you just probably undid a lot of that progress that you made, and you're putting him back in for what? I think it's a huge mistake. I think you don't put Shedeur Sanders in until the point that you are prepared to play him for the rest of the season. So if Shedeur comes in right now, you better play him for the rest of the year, no matter how bad it gets. And I don't think we're at that point. I think, in my opinion, if Dylan Gabriel keeps up this level of play, I think you play him till week 10, then give Shedeur the last 6-7 games of the season. So, again, Dylan up till week 10 or 11, give Shedeur the last 6-7 weeks, and just let him run through.
Only a few more games, but yeah.
Yeah, just let him run through as bad or as good as he is. Just let it play out.
Dylan is what you're
saying. They'd basically be getting a similar amount of games. They'd each end up with playing about 6 or 7 games over the course of the year. But when you put him in, you got to put him in all the way. And I don't think we're at that point. I don't think we have any evidence that he's actually any better than Dylan Gabriel is. And the other thing is that, let's say you love Shedeur and you do think he's better, and you ignored the preseason footage, and you're ignoring the fact that if he was better, Kevin Stefanski would probably be playing because his job is on the line, and you just want to see Shedeur play anyways. Remember, this receiving core is terrible. Look what Joe Flacco did. All he needed was, 3 days with the Bengals, and he was able to light it up. And yes, they lost again this week, but he threw for a lot of yards. Yeah. He was not throwing for yards in this offense. He threw for yards when he was with Kevin Stefanski.
He scored 38.
And he threw for a lot of yards when he was with Kevin Stefanski the first time. He comes back with the Browns, and then all of a sudden can't throw it all. Then goes to the Bengals and can all of a sudden immediately throw without even knowing the terminology in the playbook. He can still just immediately. That's because he has receivers. The Browns don't have receivers. That's why the offense looks painfully similar from when Dylan Gabriel was out there to Joe Flacco was out there. And the reason why we wanted Joe Flacco to come in, though, because it might sound hypocritical. Like, okay, well, why do you want Dylan to come in if it wasn't going to get any better? Because Dylan's a rookie. That's A. B, Dylan had decent pocket management. And so I wasn't concerned that it was really going to be worse, but there is the chance that it could be better. With Shedeur's pocket management, there is a ton of potential for this to get a lot worse, and he has no receivers to throw to. Putting him in now, you could argue, would be sabotage for Shedeur Sanders. One could argue that it would be far better for Shedeur Sanders' career, for his longevity, and for his confidence, and for his ability to have a long future in the NFL, to not play him yet, to not play him this early, to actually wait and let the season play out a little bit.
If you watch his tape, he's not a guy who slings it all over the place.
Yeah.
And we don't have an offense that's anything different. So, I don't know what your thought process is, but
where's he going to throw to?
What do you mean? Even when he had those guys.
Isaiah Bonds would bounce off his helmet, and he won't even look at the receiver, at the quarterback?
When he played in Colorado, he had those guys. He had two guys, by the way. People always bring up Hunter, but he had Shepard too.
Yeah.
Who went in the NFL draft, which that alone means he was good. It means he's a good college receiver.
Yeah, any college receiver that goes to the NFL is really
good, right? And you saw he didn't do a lot of slinging. Every once in a while, he would chuck it, and then it would be a jump ball for Travis Hunter. That was about it. He just didn't do a lot of slinging. So I don't know where this idea is that he's suddenly going to turn around. And we don't even have a slot receiver. That's why we're throwing to a tight end all the time, because we don't have a reliable slot receiver. Closest thing is Cedric Tillman. He's just never healthy.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be coming back. I think probably when they come back on the bye, I think he's going to be back with the team.
Supposedly, yeah. Hopefully he sticks around. I mean, I think he's actually pretty good, but I think realistically he has to be your receiver 5 or 6 because he's just too injured.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I just think that the receiving core is really that terrible. I think it is. For most teams, it wouldn't be so bad that you would have quarter play this bad. But I think, again, you see Joe Flacco, what he did with 3 days, going from the Browns to the Bengals, the only difference primarily being massive difference in receivers. Receivers make a much bigger difference than people think, which kind of leads us into our next segment.
Which, just really quick on that, the issue is you have talent, but no reliability, and reliability, but no talent in the receiving corps. That's it.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You have nobody even in the middle of both. You have neither. You have Bond and Judy, who are both fast and have talent, but don't know what they're doing. And the rest of the receiving corps are just guys who just can't. Lavardian and
plus Judy's job.
Thrash are just not good.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's all this instability and inefficiency and poor play all around him that makes it feel like it's really difficult to grade Dylan Gabriel because we're able to see the floor, but we're not really able to see the ceiling because there's nobody to throw to. Which leads me into our next segment regarding, the trade deadline that's coming up right around the corner. Should the Browns make a move? Because, you have this debate here where, okay, you could go out and make a move, but you know that, okay, if I go out and make a move, I have to give up assets, and it's not going to turn into a winning season. So you're giving up assets basically just to find out if Dylan Gabriel is for real in any way, shape, or form, and or Shedeur, right? That's basically the only reason you might make a move. Otherwise, you're better off just containing your assets, seeing what you get in the draft, and then building around that guy, right? Like if you draft a quarterback at number 3, again, we have the Jags first-round pick, so we don't know where that's going to fall. But depending on how your picks play out, who's available in free agency, what happens with A.J. Brown or whatever, right? There might be moves in the offseason to make. We could be a little bit more pragmatic and build around whoever you pick up a little bit more intelligently. But is it worth it to do it now? And if so, who might that person be?
So I wouldn't say I have a specific name in mind, but I think there's types of moves. So move number 1 is tackle. Getting even one decent tackle, not a good one, but just like a decent one will be nice. Ideally, what I would love is if you happen to get a good deal for, but you're probably not going to get this on the trade deadline, but a backup swing tackle type who's somewhat decent would be nice because you could keep him for next year. Because quite frankly, you need a backup swing tackle. We're seeing that this year. You need one. So that would be nice. But ideally, some kind of tackle, because even just keeping him as a backup and not a swing tackle, you kind of need one next year anyway. You're going to need a backup. Like you can't keep riding with.
Yeah, that's a move that could help you now, but also help you next year. But
and most teams want at least one decent backup tackle. We have none, so it makes sense to get that guy anyway. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, a slot type receiver that we're talking about. I mean, I love a different guy, but just somebody who's like semi-reliable. Just somebody that like you can move the offense with occasionally, just to get an idea. Especially because from the GM and quarterback and coach's perspective, they might get fired at the end of this year if they don't make some noise. You need something to show that you're not completely lost out there.
That's the thing. Barry, for as much as as a fan perspective, it might seem pointless to make a move. I don't know that Barry's going to feel that way. I don't know that Stefanski's going to feel that way. For them, yeah, they might have a winning season, so who cares about the draft picks, right? They really want to get to that 5 or 6 wins at least at this point in the season. That could be the difference. Getting between 6 wins and 3 wins could be the difference between them getting fired and getting another season.
The other things you can do are you could sell if you get enough potential. I don't know, maybe someone would be interested. You got a bunch of picks back. Like maybe if you did sell Garrett and you got back like 3 first-rounders and a couple decent players as well. And like
not that we think Garrett's going to be
traded. They would, but like let's say the Colts were interested. The Colts being a very good team, thinking they just need someone else to get over the top. They have 4 good receivers. You go get yourself A.D. Mitchell, who's barely seen the field, even though he's super talented. So you get yourself A.D. Mitchell, who's cheap. You get yourself somewhere on that defense, somebody solid, not spectacular. And then you give them him, and you get 3 first-round picks. Maybe we start to make a little move on offense, and they say, hey, you got this, etc. You move for your cap space, maybe that buys them a little bit of time. But I think the other move you should look to make, is maybe the low-risk, high-reward guys. You're an offense anyway where, realistically, it's not like, oh, well, we have to calculate whether we should leave in this guy's maybe not spectacular, but he's decent. You have tons of holes. So, maybe go out there and take that risk on a guy who maybe hasn't panned out the way people thought, but is talented.
Yeah.
And see what that's worth. I'm not want Isaiah Bond, who couldn't even make it in college.
Yeah.
But,
and he was undrafted, too. I mean, we're not talking about that kind of thing. I agree.
But maybe even maybe see if Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the block.
You think he would be available?
Maybe. Sometimes people haven't. I'm not saying he is, but maybe they're not so happy with him. If you give him a decent trade, maybe they'd be interested. I'm not saying they would, but if they are, maybe it's worth a phone
call. You mean that
call.
type of deal in general, though, yeah.
Now, that's a little more out there, but there are first-round picks who 4 years later, 3 years later, aren't looking that great, but they clearly have something in there. Maybe that's the kind of deal you make. And figure, hey, you can give them a lot of snaps anyway. You might as well and see what you get out of it. So there are guys like that. I think there are guys who've been underutilized on deep receiving cores. And hey, for example, the Colts. I mean, if you can get a deal with the Colts, again, the Colts are a move away. So yeah, maybe not the Myles Garrett situation. But they might be looking for someone else. They might be looking for more picks to make a trade for someone else. And if you can get one of those 4 good receivers they have, that would be spectacular. Now, it's not going to be Downs, it's not going to be Pittman. But maybe A.D. Mitchell or Alec Pierce. You can get either one of those. That would be worth considering
a
a trade.
Boost, yeah. I think that whatever move that they make, because I agree that there are enough holes on this team that it's not really that whatever move you make is just for the season. You just have to be careful because at deadlines, a lot of times you pick up guys on expiring deals, which is why they're being moved on from. I think whoever you pick up on has to be under contract through next season. So get somebody who's available, who's under contract through next season. Then, a tackle will help now and help you next year with your rookie quarterback. It will help you next year if you get your receiver, a little bit more linebacker depth, right? Somewhere along the way, it will be beneficial. So I think that they should go out there and try to get whatever wide receiver they can, not trading, first-round pick or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But I do think they need to get somebody in here who's an actual NFL receiver, because one could argue Isaiah Bond should be on the practice squad, and he would be on the practice squad on 31 other teams in the NFL, except the Browns, because the receiving core is so trash. Yeah. Gage Larvidan shouldn't be on the field for more than punt returns, okay?
Yeah.
It's not an NFL receiving core. It really isn't. It's a practice squad receiving core and Jerry Jeudy. That's what it is. And Jerry Jeudy at this point is like a 2 or 3, right? Maybe at a 2 he could, go back to where he was before, but as a number 1, I mean, it is been bad. So I don't think you make a move unless you got somebody under contract through next season. But I don't know. I'm skeptical.
I'm guessing nothing big. It usually doesn't.
Exactly. I don't think they will make a move. I think if we see any kind of trades, I think that would be in the offseason. I don't think they're really going to make something here, but you never know. They really might be feeling that pressure.
I think the possibility, if there is a move, is I think if someone else reaches out and it's different than what he expected.
Yeah.
I don't think he would be the mover, but if someone else came back. I just feel like Barry's a guy who just never feels the pressure. Even if he's feeling the pressure internally, in the way he acts, he's always like, no, I'm just going to be calm and do my thing, which has his upside, but also has its downside.
Has its downsides for sure. All right, we're not gonna wrap it up here, but we got one more segment for you, the brownie points segment.
Yeah.
Where if you are a first time listener, again, brownie points is where we award brownie points to the stand up players in offense and defense. The more brownie points you get, the better we thought you did. We give out 3, 2, and 1 if there were players that actually deserved it. I think very obviously 3 brownie points. You got Myles Garrett, a dominant performance in this game, 5 sacks. Probably wished he could have gotten the record there, I think, which was 7 by Derek White, I think it was. I'm mixing up that name somewhere on there,
I
but
think it was Derek Mason.
no, it was definitely not Derek Mason.
No.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
Either way, 7
I
sacks.
think it was the Chiefs linebacker.
Yes, it was the Chiefs. I just can't remember what his name was. Derek Thomas?
Oh, maybe I think it was Derek Thomas.
Maybe it was Derek Thomas. Either way, record's about 7 sacks, but obviously Myles Garrett 5 sacks. Really, really dominant game from him. So he's very, very much deserving of 3 brownie points. We didn't feel like anybody deserved 2, but who did you want to give at 1?
Harold Fannin, he had another good game. 6 for 64 and a touchdown. Every time he touched the ball, did well. I thought he made one mental error where he ran his route short of the sticks. It was a curl. Yeah. It was a curl route. It was very clearly supposed to be running about a yard further so that he would be at first down yardage. But for the most part, played well, did his job. I think he's been doing that consistently for a little while. Worth a shout out. As far as Myles goes, also side note, the Patriots, I think, learned a lesson. They came in there clearly with a plan of, we'll let Will Campbell, who's a very talented rookie, but a rookie, go play one-on-one with them. And then they tried to make adjustments later, but they weren't the right
None
adjustments.
of their adjustments.
They weren't prepared for it. So, they were trying to play one and then one instead of double teaming him. Because they clearly came in there with the plan of going one-on-one with Will Campbell, and that was a huge mistake.
From what I saw, they tried it every which way. I saw them trying to go one-on-one. Then I saw them trying to have 2 guys at once. Then they tried to stunt it, so it'd be not stunt it, but separate them, stagger them, right?
Yeah.
So he'd get through that blocker, and then another guy would slide in and then block him, and that worked from play to play here and there. But then they try to do one where they, come here, and they need the guy to chip him and then go, and then the third guy, he just got 5 sacks. I mean, it was just one of those games for Myles Garrett. He was locked in, and a couple of those sacks were actually at opportune moments, not just garbage time sacks kind of thing. I think one of them was a garbage time, but
yeah, no, most of the time. I mean, he was.
But he had a sack on 3rd down. He had some meaningful sacks. They were not all. He had 3 before the game got insane. So it really truly was a dominant game for him, not just in the stat line. But we're gonna wrap it up there. Again, we got the bye week, and then Browns versus Jets coming up in 2 weeks from today. Next week we're gonna put out our preview episode. So it's not gonna be a regular podcast, just previewing the Browns versus the Jets. And thanks for listening.
See you a couple weeks from now.